ready to pay more for essential food items, as the new GST rates are all set to make a big hole in your pockets. Glucose biscuits, which had an effective tax rate of 8%, will now be taxed at 18%. Malt, used to make milk powders like Horlicks and Complan, will now be taxed at 28%.
Well, in a country where 1 out of 4 children are malnourished, the government or the GST Council has decided to tax biscuits at 18%. And now this includes all kinds of glucose biscuits as well, which up until now had an effective tax rate of 8%, and that has now increased to 18%.
Industries are also raising their pitch against the new tax structure, questioning why glucose biscuits are being taxed while bread and papad remain tax-free.
A cookie which is available at somewhere around 600-700 rupees a kg, and probably something like a glucose biscuit which is available at 70 rupees a kg and available in 2, 3, 4 rupees packs, and mostly consumed by landless labor. I mean, people working on farm labor and those kind of people who don't even own a piece of land. It cannot be really taxed under GST. Even currently they have been exempted under excise.
Is it then fair for the government to tax the cheapest food available to citizens?
Tax on biscuits will be a bit high because it is something which is for everybody and every person to have it.
GST is imposed on 18%, so I think that the cost will also rise, and I think that the most of the factory of which produces the biscuit may get closed down in very short span of time.
Biscuit is something, is a savior at times, so it's very much related to common man's day-to-day need. So government must reduce the tax on biscuit.
Some 18% is, I think, a bit too much, so it should be reduced.
But if it is 18% on something as basic as a biscuit or kids products, so it should be re-looked into.
Here's a question we are asking. In India, where 1 in 4 children is malnourished and glucose biscuits are the cheapest form of food available, is it fair then for the government to tax the poorest of the poor? Mirror Now report.
Well, the deadline towards GST is racing very quickly. We'll have, from what our Finance Minister tells us, GST in action on the 1st of July. That leaves us with less than a month. And there are a lot of questions that pop up at this point. It's very important to talk about this. Now, as common people, you might think that GST is complicated, it doesn't affect you, but it does. It affects every service that we use and everything that we acquire and buy, including biscuits. We do understand that the Finance Minister will hold a special meeting of the GST Council on the 11th of June, that's the coming Sunday, where he will consider all of the representations that have been made to him. We're hoping that the representations and the issues that we bring up in this show will be part of that list that he looks at. We will also send the Finance Minister an official letter with all of our requests. I ask you right now to pick up the phone and call us on the phone number that's at the bottom of your screen so we can talk about how important this is and bring it to the attention of the government. There are a few problems we would like to highlight. First of all, the tax on biscuits. There are 2 kinds of biscuits in our country. The cream chocolate jam biscuits, which you can tax and make expensive because they're a luxury. But the ones you see on your screen, the glucose biscuits that are available at 2 rupees a packet for 8 biscuits, are used very often by poor mothers to feed their children. Remember, India has an astonishingly high number of children who are malnourished. 1 in every 4 from what we understand. Where are they going to get their calories from? We also know that this dry food is used to distribute during earthquakes and during floods. This is also food that people access and eat when they're traveling or when they're working at night. People like auto drivers and people like truck drivers use this food. And this is also the group of people who will get impacted the most if you increase the price. The second category that we're worried about is the increase of tax on malted beverages like Complan and Bonvita. We also understand that there is a lot of tax that children will have to now deal with when going to school. This is what the tax looks like. 12% on pencils, 12% on sharpeners, 18% on erasers, 18% on pens, 12% on exercise books or notebooks. 28% on water bottles, 18% on lunch boxes and tiffin boxes. These are our children we're talking about. And parents work very hard to make sure that children get the best education in our country. Can't we help them, Mr. Finance Minister, by making these things more accessible instead of making them more expensive? That's the conversation we're having this evening. On the show with me, Aijaz Ilmi, spokesperson of the BJP. KV Sridhar is a brand expert. Dilip Cherian is a PR guru and a brand expert who joins us in Noida. Praveen Khandelwal is the secretary of the Confederation of All India Traders. Vinod Jain is a tax expert who brings in the entire tax angle on GST. Anubha Sahai is a parent. Piyush Shah is the president of the Sainak Mandal Trust in Pune, who has worked very closely with children who desperately need to be fed. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I want to start with the mom on the panel. Anubha, when we talk about biscuits, and I'll give you the argument, I'll argue the other side of the case. There is a lot of talk about the fact that it's processed food, it's sugar, it's bad for you. Do you think that's reason enough to tax it at 18%?
No, as far as the biscuit, that Parle-G or whatever biscuit are there, which is accessible to the poor people, is concerned. I don't think these are the justification. The justification given by the ministry is justified, because the GST basic why they are going to introduce GST is to reduce the tax burden. Okay, if you will put GST on basic commodities, the necessities like biscuits and all, that too Parle-G biscuit, which cost around 2 rupees or 5 rupees a packet, then how will the poor people in small cities will feed their poor children? If you want to tax, if you want to put GST, put it on the things which are very
which are already expensive.
Yeah, which are already expensive and luxurious items. But don't put on necessities, daily needs.
KV Sridhar, for anyone who studies this market, it's also the only dry food available to a lot of people. It's a substitute for baby food. It's a substitute for, lunchbox stuff that parents tend to give their children. Where do you stand on the tax on biscuits right now?
I think, everything needs to be aligned to a larger vision of the nation. If the vision of the nation is to provide primary health, primary nutrition, and primary education, or primary sanitation, anything which falls into these primary categories needs to be exempted or needs to be given a push until everyone in this country have a free access to them.
Yes.
Then you can talk about the quality of the products and how much more value addition the manufacturers are doing, and then therefore how much more consumers should be paying for that. A plain simple glucose biscuit is basic nutrition is what it actually gives. In our country, children walk as far as 20 kilometers to get hold of that packet of biscuit in the school. So our primary nutritional needs are abysmal. We are not providing our children enough nutrition. And nutrition supplements, not just giving the nutrition, most of the milk products are the nutrition supplements. So you need to look at the future of our country, which is children, and whatever we need to do to them. I think this, to me, is a shocker after the sanitary napkins episode. The entire nation has raised the voice. When you are talking about basic sanitation, you can't deprive women basic sanitation. And then you talk about a lot of other extraneous issues of biodegradability and other stuff. In the same vein, I think nutrition is paramount. First we need to take care of our children's nutrition. Anything which is free or anything which is affordable or at a really, really low price should be encouraged rather than discouraged. That's my perspective and point of view.
Right, I want to bring in Piyush Shah. Piyush Shah works with malnourished and undernourished children. Piyush Shah, how important is it to make these cheapest biscuits accessible to children who aren't being fed right now?
Ma'am, first of all, small packets are costly. The Finance Minister told it's a 70 rupees available. Personally, I think so. It's a nutrition product for all the malnourished in the rural parts of India. So it should be made very cheaper. I think so.
तो आपको लगता है पीयूष आप मुझे ये बताइए, जो आप काम करते हो बच्चों के साथ, उनको जब आप 1-2 रुपए का जो पैकेट आप उनके हाथ में दे देते हो या 2 बिस्किट उनके हाथ में देते हो, तो ये कैसा उनके कैलोरी काउंट और उनके न्यूट्रिशन पे कैसा फर्क आता है?
मैडम बहुत फर्क आता है। कहता होता है कि एक तो बच्चे सुबह से कुछ खाना नहीं होते। इन स्लम्स एरिया द मम एंड डैड गोज टू वर्क इन द मॉर्निंग एंड दे गिव 2 rupees in the hand. So 2 rupees is a food for the day and the glucose biscuit is a food for the day. So it's very important.
It's very important. Aijaz Ilmi, what is the thought process behind taxing the cheapest biscuits at 18%?
Well, the rationale for the GST itself is very well understood. Let the GST Council, which is meeting on the 11th, let the Finance Minister and all the state chief ministers, finance ministers get together, discuss these various representations from various sources on a whole lot of products. On the issue of biscuits, well, what was the taxation structure on branded biscuits before the GST was supposed to kick in on the 1st of July? That is an important question that needs to be answered. I've heard about GST on various things being increased, but when you compare it with the previous entire tax gamut of taxes that was there, a lot of structures are being rationalized and there's actual lowering. So I would be just in the fitness of things, if I know exactly what was the tax liability on branded biscuits. Yes.
All right, I'll tell you. So as of now, as we stand today, there is no excise duty. There are 2 categories of biscuits. There are the cheap category, which is less than 100 rupees per kg, and those that are expensive. For the cheaper category, they don't attract any excise duty. They only have VAT. The effective rate is about 8 or 9%, given the fact that VAT varies from state to state. So we're going from 8 to 9%, Aijaz Ilmi, to 18%. So there is a marked increase. And given what we've heard our guests say so far, specifically what Piyush Shah says, if you're talking about a child who has 2 rupees in his hand all day, if the biscuit now becomes 3 rupees, then that child cannot afford it. Or if the biscuit goes from 8 pieces down to 6 pieces, that child is getting fewer calories. So it does seem that there's been an oversight here.
No. Let me just tell you very clearly. Now again, in the biscuits category, you have the wheat-based or atta-based biscuits, which are totally exempt, because wheat is exempted as a category for the common man. If you talk about flour, then that's a different nutritional value. Okay, so all these technicalities will come up on the 11th meeting, and the Finance Minister and the entire GST Council will take a call to rationalize the tax structure depending on the representation they've gone through. So just per se to brand every biscuit as something, whether it's wheat-based or flour-based, or whether it's unbranded or branded, and what the earlier rates were. So these technicalities are the subject of the GST Council meet on the 11th of this month.
All right, I want to bring in Vinod Jain, who's the tax expert. Vinod Jain, a couple of things that we want to bring up in this particular panel. One is, of course, the continuing conversation on sanitary pads and sanitary napkins, that they should be completely exempt of GST to allow more and more people access to them. Secondly, things like Complan, Bonvita, glucose biscuits, things that our children eat, things that we have to buy to feed our children, things that they have to use for school, notebooks, pencils, erasers, that sort of thing. Please tell us, Vinod Jain, is there a case here for the government to make these things more accessible? Because technically, pencils, erasers, notebooks are absolutely necessary in this country.
No, that way, there are a lot of things which are necessary, but I think from somewhere government has to definitely collect tax. From where the government collect tax, that is what is important. Now, if you see, we are talking of Horlicks and Bonvita. Horlicks and Bonvita is, I think, is not a common man requirement. And it is primarily, a category according to HSN code, this is actually levied. You can't actually distinguish anything which is containing cocoa has been taxed at a particular rate. Of course, as far as biscuits are concerned, low-cost biscuits, which is less than 100 rupees a kg, there is definitely a case to have a reduced GST impact. But biscuits are biscuits. Biscuits could be 500 rupees a kg, could be 1000 rupees a kg, depending on where it is sold, who is selling it, who is preparing it. So I think it can be considered like it has been done for fabrics. For textiles, it has been done low quality, lower cost is taxed at lower rate. Higher cost is taxed at higher rate. I think there is a case. But now coming back to exercise books, ultimately even if suppose you exempt exercise books from taxation, paper which goes into it is subject to GST. So there has to be an input-output trail. So even if you exempt exercise books, they will suffer that tax by virtue of buying the input which they are buying. So I think government has to definitely take care of input-output relationship. That is the prime purpose I see, that these things which are being used by school children cannot be differentiated from what we are using in offices, what we are using in possibly any other place.
Well, I want to bring in Anubha here, since Anubha represents moms. Anubha, the argument that perhaps Bonvita and Complan are luxury items and hence will attract tax. Do you want to defend that?
No, that's not the argument actually. What we are talking is ultimately the input of cocoa is primarily there. Cocoa and malt are being taxed at 18%. If you tax suppose Bonvita at 6% or 12% or whatever at 5 or 12%, even then it will bear the same cost of input. It is only on value addition that the difference is happening. You can't distinguish from product to product. It will become too much complicated tax. I think we were talking yesterday, the other day, the tax should be simple.
Okay.
There should be lesser
I would like
rates.
to comment here. It can be made.
It has to be
if you are saying that it can be, it will become complicated. My suggestion would be to exempt or to keep a very minimum tax GST on essential commodities. Essential commodities which are now taxed.
No, but the argument is that Complan and Horlicks are not essential commodities.
They are essential commodities.
Essential.
Yeah, they are essential.
I mean, children don't eat, whatever children
we have 115
eat.
crore.
And today I was reading a newspaper.
Sugar, rice is essential commodities.
Sir, today I was reading a newspaper and puja items have been exempted from GST. What is this?
Are those essential commodities?
Are puja items essential commodities? I am a Hindu, no doubt. But on this channel, I am saying, I pray God daily. I am a Hindu. But if you are not putting, not putting GST on puja items, you are saying that it is is it an essential commodity? Puja is essential commodity, or feeding a poor child is essential and important for the government.
I have nothing against
you're trying to make it emotional.
Fortifications.
No, not emotion wise. Be practical. Be practical. Put GST on. Don't put GST on essential commodities. That will be our suggestion.
Aijaz Ilmi, go ahead.
The point which I was trying to make as a tax expert is ultimately it is input-output. If there's a tax on input, you don't tax output, then you can't really reach anywhere. One has to actually appreciate what we are doing. Ultimately, the person who is supplying to you X item, if the input is tax, then the output remaining tax-free, it will not help you because he's paying
then
don't
put tax on raw material, no?
So, but okay, so tell me something, Vinod Jain, tell me something. As the tax expert, you're saying input-output. It's a complicated thing for anyone to understand that there is an input tax, there's an output tax. The guy who makes the paper, the guy who makes the notebook, the guy who sells the notebook. Tell me something. The things that I called out right now, in your opinion, notebooks, pencils, erasers, sharpeners, Bonvita, Complan, biscuits. These are all things that go into the bag when the child goes to school. Are these things going to become more expensive? Yes or no, Vinod Jain?
I don't think so. They are going to become more expensive as compared to what it is earlier. If you see excise duty and VAT, and I think if you see the manner in which the input-output relationship is happening, we want, starting from one input to another output, the entire thing goes in one chain. What your tax you are paying is only on value addition. That is where the difference is. It is a question of understanding the entire calculation. On the face of it, it definitely looks costly. Yes. But when you compare with existing tax implication, I don't think it is costly. I've done these
here's the question then, Dilip Cherian. Let me bring in Dilip Cherian. Dilip Cherian, shouldn't the government use this opportunity to make these things, rationalize these taxes and make them more affordable then, Dilip Cherian?
To my mind, Faye, the issue needs to be distinguished. As far as low-priced biscuits are concerned, if they indeed are a source of nutrition for poor children, then we have a case for looking at those biscuits and perhaps instead of the 100 rupees a kilo, even lowering the barrier a little bit and making sure that they can get the discounts and the kind of lower tax that they deserve. I certainly agree with Mr. Jain that the kind of products we're talking about, Bonvita, Ovaltine, all these products, these do not fall into the rank of what is essential nutrition.
Essentials.
I understand that urban mothers of a certain class and category do recognize that it is a part of nutrition. But if it is the whole calculation of the GST chain, I can understand that cocoa needs to be because it is not an essential commodity. But if one looks at it even from a health point of view, I believe that certain kinds of decisions that the government has to take has to be, besides raising revenue, tax has to be a means of also changing behavior modification in some subtle way so that you're moving towards better quality nutrition. And I think as long as government is very clear on that, it should be supported.
Okay, so I completely agree with you, and I'll bring in Pops here. Pops, I have two questions here. First of all, when we talk about changing behavioral patterns, shouldn't we make an alternative available before you take away the one that's already in the market? Pops?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point. Nutrition is important, micronutrients are also important for the growth of a child. And it is extremely difficult and expensive to really see a child has all the micronutrients into his body. 2 spoons of Horlicks or any other product takes care of that. So it is very important for growing children to really have the micronutrients also into their body. So therefore, child's growth and healthier growth is as important as we cater to the children who are dying out of malnutrition. Both of them are important. How can you say one is less important, the other one is more important? Of course, there are a lot of other products, which you change from 16 to 18, you can make money. And then somebody else was also talking about we need to look at what was happening before. What was happening before is of little concern to people of India today. They are more worried about what is going to happen because such was the expectations which have been raised. Irregularity of taxation between one state to another state. Right. There are different kinds of taxes which consumers have been paying. Today, you have painted a picture to all the consumers saying that I am going to simplify your life. I am going to reduce the burden. This is the best thing one could have ever done to the people of this country. So therefore, the expectations of mothers, the expectations of everyone to make a course correction is very high.
I want to bring this up, and I'll take this question to Aijaz Ilmi. When we're talking about the fact that Complan, yes, my question to you, Complan and Horlicks are not basic items, they're luxury items, they're being taxed. 28% is the luxury tax, is what you're placing right now on luxury tax. You do know that there are mothers who go buy small packets of this stuff because they want to be able to give it to their children at least once or twice or 3 times a week. They buy it for 10 rupees or 15 rupees or 20 rupees. Now, the government has very clearly demarcated restaurants, hotels based on the bill. If it's more than 500, it's this much. If it's less than 500, it's this much. If it's more than 5,000, why can't we also make that distinction then for Complan and for Horlicks? Because the only people who consume it in this country are little children.
No, the fact is, the speaker before me, the illustrious speaker, spoke about malnutrition deaths in this country. Let me assure you that as a student of community medicine, as a doctor, I don't think marasmus and kwashiorkor, which comprise malnutrition deaths, nobody in this country, for lack of Horlicks or Complan, would have had malnutrition in this country and faced kwashiorkor and marasmus.
There
Basic,
is no
essential lack of nutrition, lack of availability.
Babies die because mothers cannot lactate.
Mother's milk, don't compare mother's milk to Complan.
Let me give you the numbers.
Don't compare mother's milk.
Let me give you the numbers. Let me give you the numbers.
Don't compare this to
This
Horlicks
is from the NCBI government journals. These are the numbers. 10% of the children in our country are what they call wasting away. 15% have stunted growth.
Yes.
39% are underweight, under the age of 5. And we know, Aijaz Ilmi, we know that if you don't feed a child right between the age of 0 and 5, it doesn't matter what job opportunities we provide that child, he'll never be able to develop the intellectual capacity to excel at anything because his brain did not develop or her brain did not develop on time. Now, if we have 10% of the children in our country are wasting away.
I need to come to this.
Every calorie counts. Please go ahead.
Let me assure you that where's the empirical data that Horlicks and Complan are going to make children smarter? Only in India does Horlicks and Complan advertise, please let me speak, sir. Only in India, Horlicks and Complan, they advertise that you can grow taller, stronger, fitter. In the UK, the same advertisement cannot promote a product which allows you to claim that you can grow better, faster, taller, because there are laws in that country.
I also agree,
that there's empirical data.
Only
Sir, India is different.
Is micronutrients.
Sir, in India, poor people have. I would like to raise one point.
Anubha, go ahead.
Sir, I would like to raise one point here that in India, poor people have no access to fruits like apples, mangoes. Okay, even if they have a tree in their courtyard, they have to sell it.
You know, it's easy for us to
all these nutrition products.
Right, it's easy for us to sit around here and talk about the fact that that Complan is advertising taller, stronger, faster when it's not really taller, stronger, faster. Whose responsibility is it to regulate what advertisements tell us? If we say that these foods are available in the market, they're nothing but sugar, they're nothing but poison, whose responsibility is it to make sure that our children are not getting sugar and poison? We have a food standards department in the government. We have an advertising standards department. There is a responsibility for everybody to say that, okay, if this is not really taller, stronger, not good for our children, don't say so in the advertisements. Go ahead.
No, on having sat on the Advertising Standards Council for many years, I do know that when product categories are created and when there is a controversy, then advertisers are wrapped on the knuckle for trying to promote things which actually don't result in the benefits. So for a long time, some of these products have been actually under watch, and ads have been modified over the years. But I think there's still some way to go, and you will see that government needs to look at creating a new class of products which supply exactly the things that mothers are looking for, exactly the things that nutritionists are looking for. And I think the time has come now to allow tax rates to play their role in helping this modification in terms of product design.
Absolutely.
I only want to add here that
when you say about balanced
all
diet,
the input in this, the input in the malt is malt and primarily cocoa, which is used for chocolate, etc. They are all being taxed at high rate. Even if you actually tax these items, Horlicks, etc., at lower rates, it is not going to really help. I think what the government is possibly trying to do is, there are about 100 crore people who cannot really even afford Horlicks, even if they are completely exempted. And they are looking for those people who are primarily producing basic need items. I think, for example, the government has unbranded atta is also zero tax. And I think all kind of cereals have been exempted from tax. I think that is what they've rightly done so.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is fair enough. Nobody's arguing with that. My only submission is this: unbranded atta, wheat, dalia, porridge, all of these things need to be cooked. You need to be able to cook them. They are not ready to eat, which is why a lot of mothers and lots of families still access biscuits. I want to bring in, we have a lot of callers right now. Viewers are calling us. Bahubai Thakkar is on the phone line from Ahmedabad. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
हमारे जो प्रधानमंत्री है
जी
वो बोलते हैं ये सरकार गांव गरीब की सरकार है
जी।
हमारे 40% जो बच्चे हैं उनको माल न्यूट्रिशन का प्रॉब्लम है। सरकार को उन्हें खाना देना चाहिए, मुफ्त में देना चाहिए। मुफ्त में तो देते नहीं है, वो बेचारे जो 2 रुपए के और 5 रुपए के जो बिस्किट लेते हैं उसके पर भी ज्यादा टैक्स डालना, 18% डालना। मीन्स क्या डेफिनेशन किया है? गांव गरीब की डेफिनेशन प्रधानमंत्री जी की अलग है और फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की अलग है क्या? तो 18% टैक्स जो लेना चाहते हैं वो गरीब से क्यों लेना चाहते हैं?
एजाज इल्मी जी जवाब दे दीजिए।
इसका जवाब है, अपने जो दोस्त का फोन आया है गुजरात से, ये साफ है कि गांव गरीब के जितने भी बच्चे हैं जो सरकारी स्कूल में जाते हैं या जहां भी पढ़ने की केंद्र में जाते हैं, वहां मिड डे मील स्कीम इसीलिए लागू हुआ है कि उनको पोषित पका हुआ खाना मिले जो कि माइक्रो न्यूट्रिएंट्स से फोर्टिफाइड हो और एसेंशियल विटामिन से उनका फोर्टिफिकेशन हो। ये भी सरकार काम कर रही है और इसमें अग्रसर होकर आगे भी बढ़ रही है।
We've run on this channel in the last 1 month 3 stories about midday meals that were poisoned. In one there was rats in the rice, in another one there was a dead snake, and in the third one there was a dead lizard. Piyush Shah, also I would want to submit that 2 glucose biscuits are put in the midday meal and given to the children. Piyush Shah, आप बताइए।
मैडम मुझे लगता है कि गरीब के बच्चों को जो खाना मिलता है स्कूल में और जो एक ही बार मिलता है वो 250 ग्राम्स या 400 ग्राम्स का होता है, लेकिन बच्चों को 3 बार खाना लगता है। जब माँ और पिता सुबह काम को जाती है तो बच्चों के हाथ पे 2 रुपए लगती है, तो 2 रुपीज इसेंशियल फूड ग्लूकोज बिस्किट उसमें आता है, तो उसमें उसका दिन निकल सकता है मैम, और उसके लिए ग्लूकोज बिस्किट एक फेरी टेल से कम नहीं है।
I want to bring in Krupa is on the phone line from Mumbai. Krupa, go ahead.
Well, so my view is this. I think, in a country like ours, and, a lot of y'all have spoken about it already. In a country like ours where malnutrition is rampant, we have several children who are, going hungry. I don't even know if the government has thought about these taxes, is what I would say. And when we talk about, advertisements abroad versus advertisements here, I think we must first talk about the fact that nutrition gets taken care of abroad, which is not the case in our country as yet.
Right. Radhika Nair from Mumbai. Go ahead, Radhika.
Yeah, good evening, Faye, and good evening, all the panelists. Well, as a Keralite, I can tell you most of my fellow mates from the backwaters will be delighted because the government has made it extremely easy for Malayalis to buy gold biscuits, you see. Okay, on a more serious note, right. I'm kind of curious, and I would like to ask the representative of the ruling dispensation of the day as to what exactly is the parameter that they have used for understanding human needs. Just like a lot of our esteemed panelists and callers have said, that we seem to be completely bypassing the realities of, the lower income segments. And if we are making a small packet of biscuits inaccessible to a child who, as it is not at the receiving end of, high levels of nutrition, then we are basically just making life tough for them. Secondly, I'm glad the gentleman also confessed that it is only in India that it is possible for, FMCG products to be making these tall claims and fastidious claims and often false claims. In another country where sanity rules, you would not be allowed to get away with such bombastic claims. Thirdly, Faye, and this I know will be close to your heart because, it's easy for me to go and buy bangles and bindi today. So, आपने मेरे cultural roots को बहुत safe रखा है. मैं सिंदूर की लकीर खींच सकती हूँ, लेकिन सैनिटरी हाइजीन मेरे लिए आपने बहुत दिक्कत वाली बात बना दी है. तो इसका जो है साइंटिफिक मतलब टेम्पर, don't you think it's lacking?
Right, and I have one more call I want to bring in before we go back to our panelists. Dr. Hina is on the phone line from Mumbai. She's a medical practitioner. Dr. Hina, go ahead.
Yes, hello everyone. It's quite an interesting discussion so far since when I've joined you. I'm a gynecologist, I am an obstetrician and a mother. And trust me, when it comes to counseling my patients, I do stress upon all the natural, healthy products that they should keep taking. But at the same time, I have a lot of patients from the low socioeconomic strata where I don't know when they wake up in the morning, my patients, my mothers, I don't know what next are they going to eat. And then sometimes I tell them that please just take some of these glucose biscuits, and that morning ka chai biscuit is enough for them to pull through for the next, by the time they pack their husband's lunch, plus at the same time get their kids to school or set to work. It is that energy, whatever nutrition it may provide, but it does get them across through half the day. And it is something that I tell them, keep it in your bag, because suddenly, with the kind of weather that we have in Mumbai, sometimes when they start feeling low on energy, they just need to put in that, and it just costs like barely nothing, and it gives them something, the impetus to move further.
Right.
Similarly, as a mother myself, when my kids was much younger, I, instead of using the fancy biscuits, I use these glucose biscuits, and I would just, kind of grind them, and then or take them in a box and just mix some water or milk, and I would give it to my own kids instead of using those fancy Gerber products and things like that. I knew that this is something that's going to, kind of make my kids okay. So I understand.
Dr. Hina is making an excellent point. I want to put one more thing out there. When you travel, when you're in a train, when you're doing a long journey, what is the clean, safe unperishable food that's available to you on the road, when you're in a bus stop, when your children are hungry, when you're on the go. What can you feed them? Biscuits, invariably. That's what you can give them. And I want to bring in right now, we have another guest who's joined us. Praveen Khandelwal is the Secretary of the CAIT. Praveen, thank you for joining us. Where do you stand on this argument of GST on biscuits and on Horlicks and Bonvita and all of the other supposed health food that we give our children, Praveen?
See, my basic fundamental question is that the slab of 28% was carved out only for luxury items and negative items, that is demerit goods.
Yes.
So should I take it that all these biscuits and malt products are luxurious goods or demerit goods? This is something I am unable to understand as of now. There are also many other products like contraceptive has been placed at exempted category, whereas for women hygiene, the sanitary napkin has been capped at 12%. So it looks that there is some kind of disparity between the items classified under different slabs. So, and this needs to correct it, because ultimately it is the nutrition value food which is going to make our children healthy. And if we put all these products at 28%, the majority of the people will not be able to purchase it. So this is a basic question: for what conditions this slab of 28% was carved out?
Right. Aijaz Ilmi, if you want to respond to that, 28% was what the government categorized as sinful category. BDs, for example, have been reserved for the 28%. Uber luxury cars or luxury hotels are 28%. Malt beverages like Horlicks and Complan, that seems a little unfair.
I think this is ultimately a category of HSN. If you see, the chocolate is also produced from the same. If chocolate are luxury, they are 28%. Horlicks has to be there in the same category. I think differentiating like this will only create manipulation and tax avoidance.
Shouldn't
it has
be
to be based on
use-based?
HSN code. Ultimately, this combination is done based on some logic, very good logic.
No, but Aijaz Ilmi, to be fair, someone in the government thought out very carefully that sindoor, bangles and puja items will be tax-free. And I'm not arguing with that. I'm saying, shouldn't it be use-based then? We're not talking about what goes into making the sindoor. We're not talking about what goes into making the bangles. We're talking about uses of these articles. Shouldn't it also be a use-based decision and not a chocolate-based decision?
I think I'll come in here. You know, for example, if you are talking.
Can I speak? Can I answer, please? Thank you. Can I answer, please?
One second, Mr. Sridhar, please allow Aijaz Ilmi to answer
this question. If the question is to me, I need to answer this.
I'll come back to you.
If the question is to me, I'll answer that.
Mr. Jain, I'll come back to you.
If the question is to me, let me answer.
Aijaz Ilmi, please go ahead.
Yes. Secondly, if it's product-based and malt and cocoa are coming in the luxury category, you can't equate the same thing. Biscuits are coming in the category low at 18%. Secondly, to say that sindoor, bindi and essential commodities like rice, wheat, sugar and 80 other essential commodities are in the zero category, and to compare them with Horlicks and Complan, Ovaltine, I think that would be a fallacious, specious paradigm to start with. Okay, there is no comparison between what we are talking about.
To be fair, I'm comparing.
I would say roti, kapda and makan. Sir, roti, kapda and makan. आप मकान के ऊपर टैक्स करो, कपड़े के ऊपर पहले करिए, फिर रोटी पे करिए आप. पेट के ऊपर लात क्यों मार रहे हैं गरीब बच्चों
नहीं, मकान
पेट पे मत लात मारिए ना. आप कपड़ों
चीनी पे टैक्स नहीं है, आटे पे टैक्स नहीं है, सीरियल पे टैक्स नहीं है, ऑल एसेंशियल कमोडिटी टैक्स नहीं है. ब्रांडेड प्रोडक्ट्स पे जिसमें लग्जरी कंपोनेंट आता है, जैसे चॉकलेट कंपोनेंट, कोको आ गया, मॉल्ट आ गया, उस पे टैक्सेशन है. लेकिन आई एम श्योर ऑल द रिप्रेजेंटेशंस आर देयर विद द फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर. द जीएसटी काउंसिल इज मीटिंग. आई एम श्योर अ थरो लुक विल बी टेकन एंड द बेस्ट डिसीजन शुड बी टेकन.
I think, one of the callers have said something, and they have actually reminded, I have forgotten her name, but she said humanity. Correct? That's the most important thing. If you compare everything to the poorest of poor, what happens to middle class and low middle class? To give our children what is needed for them to survive, to grow, and then to have. You ask any mother will tell you how much it will cost to give a complete balanced diet to a child. It's too expensive to give a fish, to give a glass of milk, to give an egg, to give green vegetables, all the things which are needed. It is next to impossible to give all the micronutrients which are required for a kid every day. And then these Horlicks kind of supplements pack in a compact form. I'm not talking about their advertising claims, but talk about just the products, which has got milk, which has got all the micronutrients for the child to grow in a healthier way. Just because he's born in a lower middle class family, he should not be taxed at 18% and deprive that mother to give even that nutrition to that child. And you are saying everybody is equal, stand in the queue like a poor boy and then take 2 biscuits of glucose and then go home.
You know, I think that's a very excellent point, and I want to dwell on it for a second. The fact that, yes, I see your hand up, Aijaz Ilmi, the fact that if we levy this tax on Horlicks and Complan, we are telling mothers that you have to be rich in order to be able to feel good about the fact that you've given your child Complan today and he's going to be taller, faster, stronger. We need to do one of two things. We need to either tell all mothers in the country that Complan and Horlicks is humbug and it doesn't make your child better. We have to be honest. If we can't be honest, we cannot take away from them the satisfaction of being able to provide either Horlicks or Complan or whatever other brand they might be to their children. We will make it something that only the rich can afford. Dilip Cherian, go ahead.
You know, I think that this is a very good point that you've made. The ability to allow the middle class and the lower middle class to retain their sense of both sanctity as well as comfort with what they think are good products is perhaps very important. And this, I'm sure that, you know, one is certain that many of these things the finance minister is going to make adjustments on the 11th, because he has left enough space for that, and he probably will also simultaneously have to raise revenues by taxing something else, perhaps at a higher rate. The fact is that rather than cast this in stone, the idea is that there should be a level of flexibility, and it is worth looking at, because mothers must feel that they have the ability to either leap out of the middle class trap that they are in and move into levels of nutrition that only the rich may be able to afford. I agree with that point of yours.
Well, that is an excellent point. Praveen Khandelwal, go ahead.
To be many contradictions and disparities. The food items have been categorized under exempted category, but the Food Safety and Standard Act emphasize upon us to put the description of the food item. The moment we put that food item, it becomes blended. So then in that case, it comes under 5%. So claiming that food and other attas and cereals and everything has been placed under exempted category, I think there is a clear contradiction. The same kind of contradictions are very much there in various tax slabs. So definitely, Honorable Finance Minister must have to look into all these disparities, anomalies and contradictions, and in order to have a viable GST taxation structure in the country, these contradictions need to be removed as soon as possible.
Well, I want to bring in some more voices right now that are coming in on the phone line. Madhulika Burman is on the phone line from Baroda. Madhulika, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening, all the panelists. One of the panelists said that they wanted to, get over the maida biscuits and would replace them with wheat biscuits or something. So I wish they would first flood the market with the wheat biscuits so that the people or the users have an option to buy those. We see Parle-G is easily available. All the stores, all the villages. I have volunteered for flood relief victims, and this is the most easily available and most easily distributable item we can give to the poor. And as far as the sanitary napkin goes, on one hand we are trying to promote Swachhata. We are trying to motivate the women to use sanitary napkins rather than cycle and recycle the cloth that they are using and having all the hygiene problems. And on the other hand, if we are increasing the tax on the sanitary napkins, I think we will not be able to motivate the women. So we need to relook at that. And if we are increasing the tax on the branded sanitary napkins, then we need to have an option for the unbranded ones.
It should be exempted. These napkins should be exempted.
Sanitary napkins should absolutely be exempted. And
so that
given the fact that the government in its
afford
wisdom has decided contraceptives and condoms are going to be completely tax-free, and I applaud the government for that decision, because that is an important decision for our country and our future. Sanitary napkins must fall in that category.
Right.
Vinitha is on the phone line from Delhi. Vinitha, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. Please, I just want to tell one thing. What is actually GST? Is it for whom? Is it for the mediocre family or upper class or a rich family, Because if you feel like what? A mediocre family or a poor family. So if you're going to any of the malls or the supermarkets, we have a separate corner for the poor children and the separate corner for the rich children, because these biscuits are not allowed for you people. You please don't take this. This is allowed for you. So I just want to know if you are talking about this is Horlicks and all that is, the advertisement is not there. One gentleman said about these advertisements that it is not for the health, this is not for the height. I agreed on this part. If you'll see in foreign countries, few things are very necessary for the life, The food is not the part of the luxury items. This is the necessity thing for our life. And can't we keep these items out of the tax? You're talking about the midday meals and all that to the schools. We all know what kind of midday meals the children are getting in these schools. Pulses, rice, and this is vegetables, fruits. This is not for the poor children, This is not even we cannot afford it. Even the mediocre family, they'll think twice to buy these things. If it's cherries and you can call it lychees, all this is 150 rupees kg.
Right.
I want to take this question to Dilip Cherian. Dilip Cherian, one of the things that you rightly pointed out is we'll actually be differentiating again between rich and poor in what they can and cannot afford. But I want to come back and I want you to make this very clear to our audience about what brands are allowed to claim in advertisements if they claim that children will grow taller. Does that have to be based in some sort of truth at all, or are brands allowed to claim whatever they please?
In fact, today the standards are getting higher and higher, and there's a lot of testing that goes on. So where brands still are able to prove that they have certain nutritive values in their products, they are allowed to make this claim. And many products are now prevented from advertising like that, because the advertising, the ASCII code comes into play as far as television is concerned, and also as far as print ads is concerned. So there is a level of control. Where claims are made, there it needs to be proven the moment a consumer complains, and when a consumer complains, it is always taken seriously and has to be ratified by scientists who look at the products. So there are products who are still making exaggerated claims, but sadly, perhaps nobody is complaining about it, and that's something that also is now being looked at by ASCII, where suo moto attention is being paid to products which make exaggerated claims.
So is it fair then, Aijaz Ilmi, to say that these brands are making completely baseless claims and we should not believe those advertisements at all?
No, I never said that. I never said that. They have essential and vital nutrients in them. And the entire debate also seems that nobody's going to be having Horlicks from tomorrow. Nobody's going to be having glucose biscuits from tomorrow. Let me assure you, nothing like that is going to happen in our country. The adjustments are taking place. The representations are in. The Finance Ministry will take a hard call. But products which have a taxation on product level, but the government can't go into different brands and different levels. We can't differentiate on products made by one company or another company. We have to do it based on wheat, rice. We have to go in that mechanism. Otherwise, you're going to open another Pandora's box, and you'll have the GST delayed by another 2-3 years till we sort these things out. So it's a great move. It's a great beginning done by consensus. Hopefully on the 11th, you'll get the Finance Minister coming out with something that we can cheer about even further.
Right, a very quick question. My last question is to Praveen Khandelwal. Praveen Khandelwal, wheat biscuits or fiber biscuits or whole wheat biscuits are far more expensive right now than the ones we're talking about, aren't they?
We cannot differentiate between different products, as he rightly said. But certainly, there has to be some kind of yardstick on bringing different items under different classifications. To me, when we have a look at the whole classification of around 1,211 goods under different taxation, certainly there are many anomalies, and various representations have been given. And if we really want India to be GST enabled in a cohesive manner, so for initial days, these taxation rates needs to be classified, and we have already asked Government of India to declare first 9 months as the trial period or interim period, and during that period, whatever is happening, whatever occurs, there has to be some kind of mechanism to look into the anomalies and disparities.
All right. I've run out of time, and when I'm wrapping this up, and I want to appreciate all of our guests and everybody who called in. I know that we have hundreds of calls waiting on the line, and we haven't been able to accommodate everybody, but we stay on the topic, and we'll take these representations to the Finance Minister, to our Finance Minister. I have only a couple of things to say to you. When a poor woman hears her child crying of hunger, and she has no rice, no wheat, no sugar, and no fire to cook any of these things with, 2 rupees will buy her a packet of these biscuits that she can give her child for a good night's sleep for that one night. When a poor woman is on her period, she cannot afford to buy sanitary napkins, 1 or 2 or 3 as they are available in many parts of our country. She uses other means that could cost her her life. The difference between a packet of biscuits and a packet of sanitary napkins is often life and death. If we are going to do a trial and error method, I do realize that GST is a complicated system that you're bringing in. Please let's not do it at the expense of the poorest in our country. Please let's not do it at the expense of our children who are already malnourished and are already going to bed hungry. Let's do it at the expense of the rich. Let's do it at the expense of the luxury cars, the luxury hotels if you have to. Not at the expense of those who need you and your compassion the most. We will take all of these notes, we will put it on an official email, and we will send it to the Finance Minister as representation from all of our viewers. If you have something to add to it, feel free to get in touch with my team on our phone number. They're standing by. Thanks for watching.